Maybe because our conversation slides into another one of its awkward lulls, or maybe because Kim remembers how 25 years ago I'd like to consider myself deep down to be something of a scientist. That she asks me, seemingly out of the blue, whether I think if LSD is dropped in its liquid form onto a couple of Cert's breath fresheners and then left to drift around in her sock drawer for 4 years will still be potent. I say to her, well, Kim, speaking as a scientist, there's only one way to find out, which is what we've been doing all day, finding out. Not just whether the LSD is potent, but whether maybe we should have let our friendship die a quiet death 25 years ago. I've suggested that we come to Haight Ashbury to consume this LSD, right? Like, the idea of going to the cultural birthplace of LSD makes me believe that it will necessarily bring us closer to the heart of the psychedelic experience. But now that we're here, wandering around, it's very difficult to know what to make of this neighborhood, right? Like, there's still people you might call hippies wandering around the boundaries of society right here. But at the same time, all that iconography of the 1960s is here too, right? All the peace buttons, all the anti-war bumper stickers, all the glass pipes, all the tie-dye, objects that exist in such profusion that they can be said to be countercultural only now that they are sold across a counter. And we're playing like a game between me and Kim, right? The two of us try to top each other with how more accurately we can each describe what this place is like. A symptom, really, of the synaptic gymnastics that one can be encouraged to undertake whilst underneath the influence of LSD. And finally, I think I got it. And I say, Kim, you know what this whole place is like, right? This would be like if we were walking around Epcot Center. Right? Epcot Center, that branch of Disney World in Orlando, Florida. Epcot Center filled not with roller coasters, but rather with pavilions that are meant to represent various countries from around the world, each pavilion distilling the essence of that country down into its quintessential parts, right? So, for instance, you can go to mini Germany, right? Where you will find that they have imported real Germans over from Germany to play the part of real Germans, to speak real German, to wear lederhosen, and to work in real beer halls where they will serve you real beer, as you will be surrounded by tourists who will be saying over and over again how this is so like Germany. And it would be like, I say to Kim, if while walking around and checking out Epcot Center's various versions of famous places around the world, we came in the very center of Epcot Center to Epcot Center's version of Epcot Center. Right? And just as they do in every other pavilion, of course, they will have hired the real sort of people that you can find in Epcot Center to populate mini Epcot Center, which is to say, they will have hired tourists to play the part of tourists, to dress like tourists, to speak like tourists, so that all you'll hear anybody saying is how this is so like Epcot Center. And of course, within mini Epcot Center, there will be miniaturized versions of all these famous pavilions from around the world, until in the very center of mini Epcot Center, you will come to mini Epcot Center's version of mini Epcot Center. And in the middle of super mini Epcot Center, you will come to super duper mini Epcot Center. And in the middle of that, the middle of that, and the middle of that, until eventually exhausted, you will throw up your hands, giving up, admitting to yourself finally that apparently there is no center of Epcot. At which point, you will have lost track of what level of Epcot Center you are participating in, which is to say what level of reality you are experiencing, which is akin to how I'm feeling right now here in Haight Ashbury. I'm sure whether I am like the tourists who've come here hoping to see somebody who's actually on LSD, or whether I am the person who the tourists have come here to see, since obviously, unlike them, I am actually on LSD. But of course, this guy with whom I'm having to stare down, he doesn't know this. He thinks I must be some kind of tourist, and apparently, maybe, he's just trying to give me what he thinks I want. A story that I can bring home to my friends about that time that I went to Haight Ashbury and was freaked out by somebody who must obviously have been on LSD. Though, if this is the case, the joke is on him, isn't it? Since unbeknownst to him, I'm the one who's actually actually on LSD, unless, of course, he's having these exact same thoughts about me, even down to the very notion that, unbeknownst to me, he's thinking he's the one who's actually on LSD. And so you can appreciate, perhaps, how I'm beginning to lose track of exactly who I am in relation to him, as I feel my whole sense of self dissolving into his ever-expanding black pupil of his one working eye, as all of a sudden I'm coming to identify more with a deer frozen mid-stride on some backwoods roadway, suddenly mesmerized by a very large black oncoming truck with only one working headlight, and then all of a sudden just chow, I freak out, which is to say, I look down, feeling that terrible shame of defeat, right? Knowing that my gaze was weaker than his. I look around so many directions to check out. None of them feel right. I look over at my friend Kim who's been sitting here completely oblivious to the carnage that's been raged beside her. She sees something's wrong with me. She asks what it is, and I tell her about the stare down with the man who's still sitting right here on the other side of the glass, and how I drew a line in the sand, how it was supposed to be a moment where I was going to prove to myself that I am a man, but he crossed and he got a taste for blood, Kim, and I think he's going to come back for more. She tells me that she thinks I'm blowing it all out of proportion. I say, oh, Kim, you don't understand, yeah. Men, no, they do not stare at each other unless they're either A, going to kill each other, or B, going to make love. And sometimes it's exactly the same look, and you have no idea what's about to happen.